Welcome to our inaugural virtual assembly training sessions. This is number six in a series, and there's 3 more to go after this. My name is Claire Roberts, and I'm a member of the Rotary Club of La Marin de Sunrise, and I currently serve as the district trainer for District 5160, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's session. So to get us started, I'd like to introduce DGE Mark Roberts.
Good afternoon, fellow District 5160 Rotarians, and welcome to this afternoon's session. I'm glad you could join us. When it comes to making meetings memorable and interesting and relevant, I can't think of anybody else in District 5160 who has the skills that our speaker does today. Because Candy Pierce taught me how to introduce a speaker properly, and how to really make meetings run smoothly, but make them exciting and interesting for all of the guests and for the speaker. Also, let's remember that Candy really knows how to enjoy meetings because she is our district's representative of the Council on Legislation, and those are marathon meetings. So she really knows how to make meetings, like I said, exciting and memorable. So I'm very glad that Candy is speaking today, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy her presentation. Thanks.
And last but certainly not least, I will introduce today's speaker. As Mark said, Candy Pierce is a past president of the Rotary Club of Cordelia and a past district governor. She was district governor of 5160 from 2006 and 2007. She told me that being a mom to her daughter Sam is the most important job she has. Even if Sam is now a student at UC Davis, the mom part still lives on. She's the executive director for CASA of Solano County. And as Mark said, she serves on numerous boards, including North Bay Healthcare and Ellen Meadows Prosthetic Hand Foundation, the Ellen for Hand Foundation. So without further ado, I will turn the floor over to Candy, and go for it, Candy.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight, and thank you. And this is my least favorite way to have a meeting. And but in times of COVID, you do what you have to do. I would much rather be seeing you all in person and hanging out with y'all, but we do what we have to do. So I have a very few slides that we're going to use, and this is mostly going to be conversation. So it's not me just yakking at you, but rather you having questions, and I'll try to answer them best I can. I took the liberty of taking my experience on serving on a bunch of different boards, not just Rotary, and also the fact that I have a lot of board meetings for my real job. And so I took some of the pieces from all of those that seem to make it most effective and most efficient. So hopefully that will work. So I'm gonna share my screen now, maybe. Let's see. There it goes. Okay. So my whole PowerPoint is really about board meetings, and I know every club has different ways of doing it, different styles of doing it. Some of them do it in lieu of a regular meeting. Some of them do it in conjunction with a regular meeting. Some of them do them separate from a regular meeting. And I'm not here to advocate one way or the other. Which way to do it. I think that every club has to do what works best for them, and what's in their what works best for their board members. Interestingly enough, Willie's on the call today, and I'm actually working with Willie's club we're trying the first ever virtual visioning, and we're doing that with their club. So there are guinea pigs for that, and one of their as I gave them all a survey and asked them all to do the survey, and one of them is that one of the responses was we can't get people to necessarily step up to leadership as we would like them to. And sometimes I think in clubs it's because people think that being on the board is this wretched job that they have to do that requires a lot of work on their behalf, rather than something that can help your club and make your club more robust and more exciting. So maybe making Rotary Club board meetings a little bit more fun maybe might get some people that step up and be on the board because they heard that they missed this board meeting and all the fun that happened at the board meeting. So as Claire and Mark hear all the time at their Rotary Club, what is rule number 1?
Make it fun.
Make it fun.
Make it fun. Have fun. And, you know, I think back to when Laura Day was governor, and, you know, she always said, if it ain't fun, it ain't getting done. And of course, Cliff Docterman's favorite quote is that the business of Rotary is serious, but Rotarians don't need to be. So if you make your, and I don't mean that board meetings need to be frivolous but, you know, make it interesting for your people to be there, because if they're excited about being there and they feel the impact of being there and they feel included and they feel like their opinion matters and all of that happens, people have a much bigger tendency to go to want to be a part of that and to want to come to the meetings, rather than, oh gosh, we have a board meeting today. Let's see, is there anything I can do to skip out of that, rather than go to the board meeting. So make them fun, make them meaningful, make them relevant. And then rule number 2, let's value people's time. So start on time and end on time. So if your board meeting is scheduled for, you know, 7 a.m., which ours are in my club, we start at 7 a.m. so that because people have set aside that time to be ready to go. And then of course, most of them are going on to work or some other thing. So we need to make sure that we start on time and then we end on time. And if you can't end on time, if you get if you're diving really deeply into a topic or something like that, it's up to the person who's running the meeting to moderate the time that you have and moderate the time that you want to allocate to each thing. And if it looks as if this one thing that you're really diving deeply into is going to take a whole lot more time, that would be the time to get permission from the people that are attending the meeting to either extend the meeting by a few minutes or table it and call another meeting. But there's nothing worse than you have something really meaty at the end of your agenda and you've run out of time and people are starting to leave and get ready to go. So you have to, so if you feel that that's going to happen, get the buy-in earlier in the meeting rather than at the very end saying, oh, can everybody hang on another 15 minutes or whatever that looks like. So timing on board meetings is really important, both in starting on time, ending on time, and also knowing how much time you need to allot to each of the things that you do. So agendas, you should have an agenda. It just makes it, it helps to frame your meeting, make your meeting happen, and helps you stick on topic. So have an agenda and then stick to it. Those are the 2 of the most important things you can do when it comes to a board meeting, because agendas force you to stay on topic and stay on time, and you can decide how you want your agenda and you can decide what that looks like. But some of the most efficient agendas I've ever seen actually put, you know, a little bit of timing next to each of the agenda items, so that if you allow 10 minutes for something you think is going to be a meatier than just approval of the minutes of the last meeting or whatever, that should only take a minute, right? But you might need 10 minutes for a little bit meatier subject, or 15 or 20 for an even more immediate subject or more meatier subject. So have an agenda and stick to the agenda. It's always really important. This is a sample of a board meeting agenda that I procured from a Rotary club, not my own. But my own club does also have very similar agendas. And the way this one runs is that they, the president welcomes everybody, gets everybody started, and then goes through the old business. And the to-do list is something that I'll talk a little bit more about later, but it's at the end of the minutes from the previous meeting. At the bottom of that are the to-dos, the things that people need to follow up on and do between this meeting and the next one. And if you go through if you have a to-do list from your previous meeting and it's included in your minutes, then you get that out of the way first. Then this club approves minutes. then they assign certain people that they have what they're going to talk about. So in this case, Pam, whoever Pam is updating on their local project and what they're doing and all of that. In this case, I can't see my slides because the pictures are in the way, but Tiffany or whoever is doing the international project update, and then review the review and I can't speak tonight. Review and approve revised club bylaws. That would be that would be some old business. So all of these things there's someone that takes the lead on it, and it should be the person that it's either their committee or their responsibility to report out on it. The most important thing that I've found over the years is that a board meeting should be about, so the report should be as brief as possible, because the information should have gotten out to most people ahead of time if it's just a reporting. But if there's action items that need to happen, then you need to have more time for those. So as an example, if this local project update person wanted to ask the club, so they've been sending emails and saying, here's where we are, here's where we stand. However, it looks like we might need another $500 for this local project. That would be an action item to ask the board to approve that additional 500, or to approve to take it to the club for the additional 500. So you when you're looking at your agenda, you need to look at time you're going to need to have action items as well. So you may even put that in parentheses on your agenda, is this one's going to need this one's going to need approval, or this one's going to be an action item, or this is just a quick report. And knowing where those are helps you also time out what you're doing as far as your meeting goes. New business should always have more time than old business, because again, old business should be much briefer in most cases, but new business is something that's being brought to the board for the first time. And so the board is going to, in theory, the board is going to have more questions, and the board is going to have, going to need some more definitions and all of those kinds of things. And so you should always allow more time for new business than you do for old business, as far as each individual item goes. And then this go around is something that my work board started a number of meetings ago. Because of COVID, actually, because we were meeting by Zoom and we weren't connecting as well, or connecting in person, we at the end went around, the first meeting after COVID, we went around and just sort of asked, and the chair asked everybody to kind of give an update on what's going on for them and how they're feeling at the beginning of COVID. And then each month subsequent to that, we've had everybody just kind of report out on what's going on, how they're feeling. And what I like about that, what I value about that, is that it causes everyone to say something, because sometimes there are people that come to your board meetings and don't say anything. They just sit there and listen. And so this way you engage everybody at the meeting. But in addition to that, it really does, it's a way to connect everybody in a different way and in a different manner. And it's not specifically about the work of your that your board is doing right then and there. So we have found it very valuable, and we're going to continue it from now on, because we for my real world, because we found it valuable, and it really does. We only allow 5 minutes for it. My board is not that large. My board is only 10 members. So they don't get a lot of time to talk. It's not about spending 5 minutes each talking. It's just a really quick, minute long, 30 seconds long. Some of them have longer, but we don't allow, it's just a real quick check-in. And everybody has felt that it really adds, and it's a great way to close out our meeting. So that's what we've been doing, and I find it valuable. So I just share that with you because we found it very valuable. You should take minutes of your board meeting, and it should not be the person who is leading the meeting. There should be somebody else. So in theory, your club secretary would be taking your minutes, but it doesn't have to be the secretary. And if some clubs say that I've talked to a couple clubs, and they say we can never get anybody to be secretary because they don't want to write all the minutes from everything, which is sort of the job description of a secretary, or fits within the job description of a secretary, but that doesn't mean they have to do it. The beauty is they can delegate. They just have to make sure the minutes are taken. So perhaps the better way to do it is, for the secretary to, rotate it around and ask Jim this week and John that the next time, and Susie the one after that, and be the one to, the secretary would still be the one responsible for making sure that they're done and that they get out to everybody and that they're shared. But it doesn't hurt to ask other people to take minutes. And because again, that's another way to engage somebody in the meeting, that if there's someone that comes to the meeting and you feel like they're really not engaged, they're just there as because somebody told them they had to be there or they felt obligated to be there. It's a great way to sort of engage them and make that happen. And as I said earlier, one of the most valuable things that I have found from minutes is, that the end of the minutes are really the action items. So take a couple of minutes at the end as you're adjourning the meeting to make sure that who's ever taking the minutes has captured all of the action items that need to be done. So in the example of the agenda that I showed earlier, we may take the action item might have been for the person who was doing the report on the club's community service activity. And so the action item for them is to prepare a brief or something for the club members at large on why we needed the extra $500 to do that project or something like that. So, but it's in writing, and they know that they follow up. Or if you're getting ready to do something and someone says, "Oh, I'll take care of that," put it in writing so that it holds them accountable for making that happen and making them do that. So, and those are really valuable. And then when you start your next meeting and you start on your agenda and you go, okay, we have this to-do list of the action items from last meeting. Sally, you were supposed to get a pricing on this for the club. And Sally says, oh, and it's not at all aimed to be punitive in any way, shape, or form, but just, so that Sally has an opportunity to say what she's done or hasn't done. And, we're all volunteers here, so we can, if she says, I just didn't get to it this week, you say, great, we're just going to add it to the list for next time. Or if can somebody help you? Or it gives you an idea of sort of, but I found over the years that a lot of the challenges are that people, they walk away from a board meeting and then they don't look at anything or do anything. And then you get to the next board meeting and you go, okay, well, how'd that go? And they go, oh, I forgot. Somebody should have reminded me, or I forgot to write it down or whatever. But if you put it in, if they know to look at it, at the action items at the end of the minutes of a meeting, they're much more likely to get something done. So it's a valuable piece to add to your meetings. So, Claire, are there questions popping in yet?
There are. So first question was, does the person who runs the meeting have to be the president?
No, absolutely not. So the person running the meeting is, it's the president's responsibility to ensure that you have a board meeting, unless you have a paid staff with your club. I don't know, do any of our clubs still have paid staff members? But it's the president's duty to ensure that the board meeting takes place. However, it's very simple for the president to delegate running the meeting to anybody they so choose. That's the beauty of being the president. You can delegate whenever you want. So,
sure.
Yeah.
I know when Claire and I were working together on the national board of our fraternity, that was the time when we actually changed the presider from the current president to the past president. And the reason for doing that was it allows the president to take a more active role in what's going on, rather than kind of focusing on just presiding over the meeting. So it's a thought. It does not have to be the current president.
Absolutely. And I know that in club that I was talking to, and I'm not going to name names of clubs, but they rotated their chair of the meeting around. But they after the president-elect came back from PETS, that was their standing rule that they would run the next 2 board meetings because they wanted to get them ready to serve as president. So, you know, you can do it however you want, but there's lots of different opportunities out there.
Tina Echeverry said that in their club, instead of calling it a to-do list, they call it action items because they think it gives it more energy.
Right.
And then there were a couple of comments about minutes. Don suggested that maybe record the meetings on a digital recorder. A couple questions about how summarized can the meeting minutes be? Is it supposed to be talking about the discussion or only the actions that were taken? Those are a couple of questions that came out about minutes.
All right. So minutes are just supposed to capture the essence of the meeting, and so you don't have to write the entire, you know, the entire script of everything that took place in the meeting. You know, John said this, and Sally said this, and Kathy said that, and Barry said that, and Claire said that. But it's rather that, you know, there was a discussion about having a new club project. The project was determined that, you know, we're going to go clean the creek on the 4th Saturday of June. And it was, you know, there was a motion and a second, and you know, it passed or it didn't pass, or whatever the case may be. And your minutes can reflect who made the motion and who made the second, and who abstained, but it doesn't have to. It can just say, you know, there was a motion made, it was seconded, and it passed, you know, by majority, with, you know, and if there's any abstentions, you can put that down. But it doesn't have, you know, you don't have to call out everybody on the on what happened. But it's just minutes are just supposed to capture the essence of what happened at a meeting, and because otherwise, you know, they could go on for pages and pages and pages, and no one would read them anyway. So yeah, we want the minutes to just capture those things.
And so another comment was, so minutes would be best if they were distributed right after the meeting as opposed to right before the next meeting, especially if they have the action items on there. So as a reminder.
Yeah. So that's a really valid thing. We have a policy for my real job. We have a policy that the minutes have to be out within a week of after the board meeting, because we meet once a month. So, but it gives the secretary a chance to make sure that they captured everything. She sends it to me, the executive director, to look at it to make sure she caught, you know, everything, and then she sends it to the chairman and make sure that we caught everything, and then we finalize a version and send it out. But it's required to be out within a week afterwards, so that people have 3 weeks to get ready. But yeah, but you should have a policy, and you're absolutely right. They should not go out 5 minutes before the meeting, so that you can.
And then the last comment that I have in the chat box is, any other ideas for making meetings fun?
Yes, so that's my next slide.
Yes, I knew. So I thought I'd help you.
Thank you. That was a great segue. Thanks, Claire. I love having a plant in my audience. Yeah, so first of all, you want to make sure that everyone participates in some way or another. And so there are really cool, there are really cool icebreakers out there that you can do, interactive things that you can do that don't take a lot of time necessarily, but that it causes everybody to be engaged. And depending on how much time you have, you can do a longer one. But one of my favorite things about team building within a group is everyone getting to know everyone's in a little bit different manner than what you're there for the business of. So I have seen everything from, you go around the table and as quickly as you can name the name of your first pet. You know, and so that you just go down really quick, 1, 2, 3, and go around. My very favorite sharing icebreaker, if you want to call it that or whatever, is whoever is running the meeting brings enough coins. Kathy, you've seen this one. Brings enough coins for everybody there in the room at the meeting, and due to the age of Rotarians, they're better off being quarters. But you look at the year on the, because I did it with pennies once, and yeah, we had to get out magnifying glasses. That's why I caution this. But you look at the year on the coin, and then everybody goes around and shares something that happened in that year, and for them. And so it's really random. And the thing that has been really exciting for me, and I've done it a number of times in facilitating a bunch of different things, but even though it's totally random, you'll get, oh, that was the year I graduated from law school, or that was the year that my son was born, and it's weird how it's totally random, I got year, whatever. And so it's a great way to just talk to each other briefly, but get to know each other on a different level. So there are all kinds of different ways to do that, make it fun. I went to a meeting once, I wasn't responsible for this one, but I went to a meeting once where every 15 minutes they made us get up and move and sit next to somebody different for the next 15 minutes. And it was a board meeting. It was for the hospital board, but they got tired of us all sitting right next to the same person all the time. And so every 15 minutes of our hour-and-a-half meeting, they made us get up and move. But it was, it was kind of silly, but it got people talking to different people and sitting next to different people. And so, but the most important thing, and I think it's really valuable for the person who is running the meeting to just make sure people are engaged and that everyone participates. And so I stress that, pay attention, and if there's someone sitting there that isn't saying anything, and try to engage them in a way that doesn't put them on the spot or embarrass them, but just really, hey, Kathy, I thought that was a great idea, and is there something that you were thinking of that we could add to that, and or how do you feel about that, or whatever, but just engage people in a way that, again, doesn't embarrass them or put them on the spot, but that way they know that you care and that you want them to be engaged. And one of the things that a good leader can do when they're recruiting their board, which that's not what this meeting's about, but when you're recruiting your board is to elevate everyone on the board and let them know that, hey, you are the people that are going to shape the future of our club, and that you are so valuable to us because you come to us with your vast experience in things other than Rotary, and we can take everything that we do. Each of us has experiences outside of Rotary that can really enhance what we do in Rotary if we take the time to share them and do all of that. So a good leader elevates that to the point where people are not afraid to even throw out new and crazy and bigger and bolder ideas because they feel valued and they feel part of the process. So and then so whoever is leading a board meeting just really needs to continue that piece up throughout the meetings. You have more questions, Claire?
Kathy Durfee asked don't you need to review the financials at the board meeting?
So yes, sometimes. So yes, you do need to, and that was on that agenda, was it not? But you should always review your financials you should always review financials at a board meeting. And my board for CASA has made the decision that we send out the financials a week before the board meeting, and they send in all of their questions before the board meeting as much as possible so that we don't spend a ton of time on the financials. And oftentimes our financials are just part of our consent calendar, but that takes the coordinating of getting them out ahead of time so that people have enough time to look at them and ask the appropriate questions. But you should always have something to do with the financials on every agenda for every board meeting.
Milt Smith asked, any tips on managing people who like to talk a bit much?
Yes. Who would that be, Milt? No. That's kind of that kind of harkens back to that everyone participates. It would be real. It's, you know, the way I tend to do it is depends on who it is and how you can do it. On my own CASA board, we have an attorney, and because he's paid by the word, he doesn't know how to be brief. And so we've learned that when he starts going on, we just say, oh, it's attorney time. And then he gets it that, oh, I need to wrap it up. But because he has the personality that accepts that, and he, you know, we make it fun. But for people who are just going on, the easiest thing to do is just say, that's, you know, when they get to when they take a breath, say, you know, that's really great, but I would really like to hear Barry's opinion, or I'd like to hear Mark's opinion. And so can we give them space for that, without, not saying, okay, you've said enough, that I think that's really great. Can I get Kathy's opinion on that? And that usually gets them to allow you to. But again, if you're trying to make the meetings fun and you have people that have the right personality, you know, you can play with it a little bit by, you know, saying, oh, it's attorney time, or, you know, whatever. But only if it, you know, only if it doesn't offend anybody and you know that it's not going to hurt anybody's feelings.
Too bad they're not doing a class, because they weren't going to start till October. But all the screening and so forth would be done in.
John, I'm muting you, John.
I was like, what question is that?
You know those past district governors who can't follow directions. It's okay. I'm
talking and I can't shut up, yeah.
Another question is ideas for Zoom meetings. Is there a class on doing Zoom meetings?
There are, actually the best tutorials for Zoom meetings are on YouTube, believe it or not. Go to YouTube and there's some really great, and it shows you how to, because you know, we've learned a lot about Zoom, those of us that have used it a ton in these last 3 months, and you know, like how to share the screen, and how to go into different groups, and how to do all of these things, and how to make somebody else the lead, and there's lots of things and YouTube really has some great videos on that, and they're pretty self-explanatory. So I think Zoom actually has tutorials on their website as well, but I think the YouTubes are better. Personally.
And we did do some training at the district level on Zoom early after we started getting shelter in place. So if you go to the district website, you can get to some Zoom training. And if you have any problems finding that, please let me know, and I'll be happy to get you the information. Barry Casper suggested maybe a timer as a way to keep people from talking too much, so everybody gets a timer. Don't know about that. And then Milt again, any advantage in talking about a hot topic before or in between meetings? Cannot do if a government board, but okay for us?
Yeah, we're not mandated by the same rules as a government board. So we as Rotary, yeah. So, you know, you just, yeah. You know, if there's going to be, I think that's the beauty of a good leader, and it's not necessarily to go out and try to get win people over to your side or lobby people one way or the other, but really having a conversation. You know, if you're afraid that something is going to be challenging for someone on your board, it doesn't hurt to have a conversation with them ahead of time and ask them, you know, what their feelings are, and then be able to kind of work through that ahead of time before you get into the meeting. So that.
And then Sharon Chambers says at regular meetings they have happy bucks, and every member says something that happened good about them. Any suggestions for other? You had the coins, but any suggestions for other fun activities you could do at a board meeting?
Yeah. So again, the one that I said, The example I use where, go around and have everybody, name the name of their first pet. You can expand upon that. If you're trying to do it really quickly, you can expand upon that by, who's the first name of the first person you kissed, or the name of of your best friend in 5th grade, first name of your best friend in 5th grade, or, just different scenarios like that. There are some, you can get like a bag of Skittles or M&Ms, colorful M&Ms or something like that, and pass it around, and everybody has to shake one into their hand, and whatever color that is, whatever color Skittle they get, you say like, you ask them to equate something to that color that their favorite. So if they got red, they might say a red rose, or if they got yellow, they might say, the yellow Corvette I saw driving down the street, or something like that. So you can be a little bit creative in those. And there's actually, if you Google icebreakers on Google, there's tons of them that come up for meetings. So you can Google some of those as well.
Well, great. So that's the last of the questions.
Okay. Well, I know you wanted to go like 30 to 40 minutes, so we're right at 40 minutes. So if there are...
okay, so if you stop sharing your screen, then everybody can see everybody, and we'll see if there's any last questions.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a question that you want to ask Michelle? Did you want to unmute yourself and ask a question? If not, that's
I was waving hi to everybody.
Oh, you were waving hi. Okay.
Well,
that's good. Friendliness is good. Barry's waving as well.
Yeah.
Question, Barry?
I want to
Barry,
learn.
I like that suggestion
I'm doing a YouTube video on COVID hairstyles.
Yeah, there definitely are COVID hairstyle videos if you need one.
So anybody wants to volunteer to help me with that YouTube, let me know.
Okay.
The sun was shining so brightly on John's head. I told him, go get a ball cap, John. So
okay.
Get that.
We have now descended down to does anybody have a legitimate question on the topic at hand? I am not seeing any, Candy, so I think thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you
very much, and everybody have a great evening, and hopefully we'll get to see each other in person real soon.
I hope so. Yeah. Bye, everybody. And Claire, thank you for all your work on setting all of these up. You're a rock star making all this happen.
Welcome.